Excuse me? Okay, so Representative Bella Wilkerson, 5262.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the House Labor Committee. I'm here this evening to speak to you about House Bill 5262, which is an act relating to labor and labor relations, the Fair Employment Practices Act. What this bill would do is make FEPA expressly applicable to individuals elected to state public office or any political subdivision, so municipal or state office, and it provides civil liability for a person who directly or indirectly violates the Civil Rights Act. So what I am hoping that this bill will do, if passed, is offer protections to staff as well as elected officials themselves from forms of discrimination while they're engaged in the act of the people's work.
Any questions? We have callers that would like to speak on this bill. I'm going to call on Mr. Michael Evora. If he is present, you have the floor. The only problem with that is Steve Brown is I'm going to ask him to speak on two bills, and I would want him to wait till the end because these other individuals only speaking on that one bill. Thank you. Steve, I'll get back to you. Promise.
Yes.
Showtime, baby. It's your time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. On behalf of the ACLU of Rhode Island, I want to express our organization's strong support of Representative Bella Wilkinson's bill. We believe that it addresses a number of very important issues to protect individuals in the workplace from discrimination. I know that there are others who are signed up to testify who can give a lot more information about one particular aspect of this bill, which is designed to overturn a Rhode Island Supreme Court decision that limits the availability of remedies to individuals who are victims of discrimination in the workplace. All I want to do is emphasize that there are a few other very important provisions in this bill also designed to provide protection. Perhaps one of the best of which, from our perspective, is getting rid of a long-standing and archaic exemption for people who are engaged in what's called domestic service, something that we know applies to lots of low-income individuals, people of color, and we hope that the committee will give favorable consideration to the bill.
Mm-hmm. Any questions with regard to Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
Representative Corvasi?
Stephen, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Stephen, do me a favor. Give me a practical example of something, an example of employee discrimination that would not be, would not fall under the, that would fall under this new language that would not be, that would not fall under the present language.
Sure. Well, there are two types of things. One, which I mentioned, that which I know other people are going to talk about in more detail, has to do with what remedies are available to people. You know, not whether they can sue, but who they can sue and what remedies are available. And that's that Rhode Island Supreme Court decision I mentioned, where you may be the victim of discrimination, but not be able to sue a supervisor, an individual who's responsible for the discrimination. So the remedies are very limited. In terms of who currently would not be protected, who currently is not protected, but would be under the bill is a few categories. One is the one I mentioned about people engaged in domestic service, which again are low-income workers. It also applies to volunteers and unpaid interns, pages, including pages in the General Assembly. These people would be included in the definition of employee, and they are currently not included in the definition. So it would expand the number of people who would be able to challenge discriminatory conduct if they were subject to it.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, that's the conclusion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Let me also just say, well, I know I'm signed up for 5266. It addresses the same issue, so there's no need to call on me again.
Oh, so you're all set? Because I was going to say
Yep.
to you that you could speak on the 5266, but you're saying you touch bases on that, so you're okay?
Yeah, the bills overlap.
Okay,
We support that too.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. That concludes the hearing on 5262, and I would like the record to reflect that Representative McEntee is present virtually. Welcome, Representative.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
You're most welcome. Glad you made it. At this time, I'll call on Randall Rose on 5262 with Representative Bella Wilkerson's bill. Mr. Randall Rose, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate you putting me on. Like others, I'm in support of 5262. I think it's very important that we establish that protection against employment discrimination and sexual harassment and other unfair employment practices is not just for some categories of people who work in Rhode Island, but it's for all Rhode Islanders. It's something that all Rhode Islanders are entitled to in their jobs, and it shouldn't be something where there are special exemptions for people who work for the elected legislators. They should have, people who work for the legislators should have the same protection against sexual harassment and discrimination as anybody else. So, like others, I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of Representative Wilkerson? Or do you?
No, thank you.
How about you, Representative Wilkerson of Randall Rose?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Next online is Michael Evora on 5262. Mr. Evora, the floor is yours.
Yep, I'm here.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I apologize for the... Can you hear me?
Can you lower the volume of your device that you're calling us on, please?
Sure. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I won't reiterate or repeat what the others testifying in support of this bill, H5262, said. You all are aware, I believe, that I am the Executive Director of the Commission for Human Rights, which is the agency that is responsible for enforcement of the Fair Employment Practices Act, and we are in favor and in support of this piece of legislation. I would also note that this testimony would be considered for 5266 as well, or I would request that since it is an overlap bill, as Steve Brown pointed out. And I would just want to emphasize that the Mancini decision, which was referred to by a couple of speakers, as I understand it, we believe was an erroneous decision. We believe the legislature was clear in its intent, and for decades, at least going back to the 1970s, we had interpreted the Fair Employment Practices Act to, in fact, allow for individual liability and had individuals named in charges up until the day that the Supreme Court in 2017 issued its opinion finding to the contrary. I will emphasize that one of the important aspects of being able to name individuals in those cases is that You have, for example, harassers of a sexual or other nature, of a racial nature, who commit individual acts and should be responsible for those individual acts. Right now, as the law stands, we cannot name individual harassers. We can only name the company that employs them, the actual employer. And I will echo something that I know Dick Sinapi said in his written testimony, and perhaps his oral, although I didn't hear it, and that is that this is actually a pro-employer bill in the sense that it seeks to put the responsibility where it lies. We actually have individuals who contact the Commission for Human Rights and expressly state they do not wish to file against their employer, only against the individual they believe discriminated against them because they believe the employer tried to do the right thing. So in this case, again, it puts the responsibility squarely where it should land, and I believe both bills do that. We support them, and we also support the efforts in 5262 to expand the coverage of the Fair Employment Practices Act, as we believe everyone who works in the state of Rhode Island should be afforded the protection of that law.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Mr. Evora. Very
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
You're most welcome. And thank